So, massive drop in the Canadian dollar after Trump came out on Truth Social, basically saying that he's going to implement, as soon as he gets into office in January, he's going to slap tariffs on Canada. 25% tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and also mentioned China there on basically the fentanyl drugs and securing the borders. And we saw the Canadian dollar plunge on that news. The US equity markets, not much of a reaction there, but the Canadian dollar plunging on that news as it sparked fears all over again and remembrance of Donald Trump's tariffs not being a good thing for the Canadian economy. Now, the problem is this. Although that, this may be a threat, the tariffs may be a threat, it may not actually be implemented. Now, hear me out here. I'm not saying that Trump is not going to throw tariffs and just use it as a threat. He's definitely going to do it, but he's using this threat or weapon as a negotiation tactic to get countries to negotiate on some sort of topic to make it a fair deal for the US and the other country. For example, securing the borders. Now, a Bloomberg article came out discussing that we heard Trudeau speak to Trump after those comments and discuss that they will work on trying to secure the borders. So, if you really think about it, it's not that negative because it's just a simple request that is coming out from Trump to work with the U.S. on securing the borders, and it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to slap 25% tariffs all of a sudden, just like that. So the media may portray it that way, or you may hear out there that people may try to portray that he's just going to slap tariffs left and right and start a war with everyone. That's not my understanding and perception. My understanding is more of that the tariffs is more of a threat. It's more of a weapon that he showcases and say, hey, let's talk. If you don't want to talk, you don't want to negotiate, you don't want to agree on certain terms, then I'm gonna slap these tariffs. And this threat is a good tactic for the US in order getting things done. Now, if things don't get done, then yes, you can expect, those tariffs to be slapped. You can expect the economy to be, affected when it comes to those certain goods. You can expect, the jobs, the employment numbers, the certain countries being affected as well. You can expect also volatility in the markets to pick up. And that's quite likely or expected with a Republican sweep. And with Trump, you can expect a hell lot of volatility heading into 2025. Now, in terms of Canada's case here, if they're working and they're expected to work with Trump, then we should see that Canadian dollar pick back up again. And we are actually already seeing that it's halfway up from the move, from the plunge that we saw. So this will be interesting to monitor because the tariffs thing is very similar. This weapon, this threat is very similar to how the Federal Reserve does things too, if you think about it. When we look at the central banks out there, they use words, communication, credible threats out there to influence the financial markets to react in a certain way, to get what they want, so they don't have to actually go out and do too much tightening. Like, for example, back in 2021 and 2022, they start talking about rate hikes, and you got the bond markets already reacting to higher yields, creating the tightening situation there. They could talk about rate cuts, they could talk about easing, they could say anything in their words and create the financial markets to react in a certain way, to create tightening, to create easing. And this is a similar tactic that we could see from Trump, using tariffs as a threat, Say, hey, if you don't listen, we're going to throw tariffs, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And that's how you get countries to come and negotiate. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean they'll go and do it, but they will feel the pain, they will see the pain just from a couple of simple words. Now, again, with Trump, obviously, we've seen it during his presidency. He's not afraid to put those tariffs on, and obviously, that can bring in inflation, that can bring in other disastrous things for countries when it comes to the data, the economics. It can bring also cost of goods coming into the U.S. higher. It could be that he might ignite that long-awaited recession. That is all possible. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here, because, like I've been saying, it could just be used as a negotiation tactic and just a threat. So we'll have to wait and see. But this was the immediate reaction in the Canadian dollar. We did see the plunge there. And I feel that if Canada is not in line and not there to work with the US, then we could see much more downside for Canada, more for Canada than the US. There's much more at stake for Canada than the US, with the unemployment rate in Canada already spiking up higher, with the jobs issue, with the immigration issue, and much more. That is going worse off in Canada. We could see that escalate, especially if you get the tariffs being slapped on Canadian goods. So it could be much more worse for Canada. So it's in Canada's best interest to go on the negotiating table and discuss something, to work with Trump, to work with the U.S., and to make it a fair playing field. And if not, then obviously you could expect the downsides to come later on. So definitely a lot of volatility to come. December is going to be action packed also, with a lot of data. We're going to have to see how the jobs data in the US is going to end up being. We're going to have to also see, we got the inflation data coming out. We also have the Fed coming out in December. There's a 50-50 chance right now on a rate cut. That could all change. We could see no rate cut in December. That's a very much of a possibility. And we could just get a hold and wait, then Trump coming in and see what he does, and then you might get policy to change according to whatever Trump does, right? If you get those tariffs coming in, if you don't, you could see the FOMC react to that news as well. So right now, just a little teaser, a little taste from the Canadian dollar, a plunge there. It'll be interesting to see what he does with other countries there. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment below, subscribe, hit the like button, bell icon to be notified of the next video, and I'll see you guys around. Cheers. Bye.